My quest for free energy began with a choice from my 8th grade science teacher. I could believe the synchronous attribute of our moon's orbit resulted from a miraculous collision, or that absolute conservation of energy was not a natural phenomenon. The miracle was easier for the teacher to believe, but I chose the second option. Mylow seems to have made the same choice. Alternative miracles include aether, diel forces, and energy from a vacuum. But my favorite miracle is that it must be nuclear if it cannot be explained. Mylow spent a good portion of his life trying to figure out how Howard Johnson's motor worked, and truly succeeded. Unfortunately, he doesn't seem to have the training to understand the basic principles leading to a way to isolate the non-miraculous reaction that fuels his success. The same might be said for Murray and his generator. I have focused my attention on isolating the desirable reactions in both discoveries. Explanations for both devices are the same, but they are in no way miraculous. The explanation doesn't even involve a new equation. Mylow and Murray found two different ways to isolate voltage and force. In essence, they have told the dreaded back EMF monster he cannot come out and play. Isolating voltage, as Murray did, is difficult to demonstrate. Isolating force, as Mylow did, is easy using these simple tools. The tools are fundamental: coils of wire, permanent magnets, bars of steel, and a battery. We will first reconstruct the classic force and voltage experiments using side-by-side permanent magnets, essentially a horseshoe magnet like Mylow uses. The coils are equivalent to coils in speakers or in Bell's telephone, so the technology is well over 100 years old. The point here is to demonstrate that there are 3 cogging points with the short coil and none with the long coil. The classic experiments show the same for voltage, none with the long coil. With the Mylow technology hidden under the Coke can, we will demonstrate force using the long coil where voltage is impossible, reacting with the shorter length horseshoe magnets. I understand cogging points to be nothing more than minimum energy points. Conservation of energy is absolutely valid when energy approaching the minimum energy point is the same as moving away. Alternatively stated, a specific force is always required to keep two masses a specific distance apart from the minimum energy state. Mylow's discovery partially produces force by establishing the displacement from minimum energy point and not letting the displacement change when his rotor moves. The short coil produces force reacting with the horseshoe magnet because it is a partial reaction, allowing it to be asymmetrical. The total reaction using the long coil is symmetrical, so it cannot produce any voltage. Mylow has proved that it is possible to produce force. If I do this right, viewers will want to know what is hidden under the Coke can. Door number 1. I will fully disclose what is behind door number 1 to anyone willing to replicate Mylow's 18-inch disc. Bearings will need to be beefed up, but torque will be increased 1,000 to 10,000%. The critical speed problem might go away, but I doubt it. Murray's technology may be required to accomplish that. Here is the classic experiment. Moving the coil produces voltages. Is anyone surprised? Plus or minus voltages should also be no surprise. Let's look at cogging with the short coil. With this polarity, cogging is toward the center of the horseshoes. It doesn't matter where you start, it's always toward the center. So what that means is we have asymmetry. When the coil is on the left, the asymmetrical forces pull it to the right. When the coil is on the right, the asymmetrical forces pull it to the left. A long coil cancels those two forces when the polarity is reversed. There are still asymmetrical forces. Only now they move the coil out of the horseshoe instead of toward the center. Again, once symmetry is applied, the two forces cancel. It's the same for voltages. With a long coil, it's symmetrical, no voltage, no force. With the short coil, it's asymmetrical, giving us both voltage and force. Does door number 1 conceal a miracle or an untapped force of nature? Maybe a nuclear reaction is being excited. The alternative explanation is fraud. I sincerely hope the skeptics find the forces demonstrated here difficult to believe and choose the alternative explanation. Door number 1 conceals a group of magnets that reacts in the same way as the magnets in Mylow's video. Considering the asymmetry effects, a fair test would have twice as many turns of wire on the long coil to produce the same force as the shorter coil. I knowingly accept the fact that skeptics will use the lower force as unscientific evidence of fraud. Who cares? The Mylow saga demonstrates that unsubstantiated accusations of fraud may be the ultimate compliment in this venue. Let's see if there is any force. Friction is the same and forces are half, so this doesn't react as well as the shorter coil. That is my scientific explanation of the smaller, more erratic forces using this coil. So we start in the middle. With this polarity, it moves to the right. Change the polarity, it moves to the left. But the amazing thing is that if we start all the way to the left and switch the polarity, it goes all the way to the right. Reverse the process, and the force is reversed. This is achieving forces without asymmetry. Now I would like to share some of my incredible findings that brought me to this point. In the interest of justice, the findings warrant that Mylow's wrongful accusers should be shameful and apologetic. I used FEA to evaluate Mylow's design. A 10-inch disc is minimal, and an 18-inch disc seems to be the optimum size. Magnets between 2 and 3 inches long are optimum for the 18-inch disc. His general magnet spacing also seems near perfect. Likewise for the way he achieves asymmetry by varying the spaces between magnets. That too seems near perfect. Mylow's unconventional research has produced a minuscule, miraculous reaction buried in a pile of unavoidable obstacles. If the forces demonstrated here are real, his detractors surely owe him an apology. I give him recognition for being a unique and special man. Let's check out the forces again. Yep, they look real to me. The tide should soon turn. Mylow's detractors may run and hide rather than give a humble apology. Either choice is good for Mylow and the world.